All right, welcome. We're diving into a really critical chapter from our book, The Modern Art of War. And it's all built around this radical idea that today, the most powerful weapon on the battlefield isn't a missile or a tank, it's how fast you can learn. So let's just jump right into the core of the argument with this quote. Because really, this says it all. In today's conflicts, it's not just about who has the bigger army or the fancier gear anymore. It's about who can adapt to what's actually happening on the ground the fastest. It has become a race of adaptation. So what's fundamentally changed? Well, the answer is pretty huge. The very definition of what gives you a strategic advantage has been completely rewritten. We've moved away from the old, static things we used to count to something way more fluid, way more about timing. And this chart just shows that shift perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the old playbook, troop numbers, where you are on the map, how much firepower you can bring. And look, that stuff still matters, for sure. But the new factors on the right, that's where the real story is now. We're talking about things like software update cycles, the shelf life of our own assumptions, electronic signatures. Yep, power today is measured by how fast you can process and adapt in a world that is constantly, digitally shifting under your feet. Just think about what that really means for a second. The speed of change itself has become a weapon. A plan that was absolutely brilliant an hour ago could be a complete death sentence right now. So, clinging to an outdated picture of the battlefield, that's one of the most dangerous things you can possibly do. But what does it actually mean to learn in this kind of crazy, high-stakes environment? I mean, it's way more than just grabbing a bunch of information or collecting data. It's a really rigorous, disciplined process. See, real learning demands this repeatable loop. You have to observe what's going on, sure, but then you have to interpret why it's happening. And after that, this is crucial, you have to test that interpretation to make sure you're not just guessing. Only then can you actually adjust what you're doing, and the key to the whole thing, you repeat the cycle, trying to get faster every single time. If you skip any one of these steps, the whole thing just falls apart. And this line just brilliantly sums up the danger of cutting corners. If you see something and you think you know why it's happening, but you never actually test your idea against reality, you're not learning. You're just performing. You're playing dress up. You might look the part, you might sound super convincing in a meeting, but you are fundamentally not ready for what happens when you make contact with an enemy who is also thinking and learning. And this is exactly why any advantage you have today is so temporary. The whole contest is a clash of these learning loops. Every single advantage you gain is being studied by the other side. That sensor, giving you a perfect picture, they're working right now to spoof it. That secure radio link you're relying on, they are trying to jam it. Every advantage is just a temporary moment in a continuous escalating game of adaptation. Okay, so if this learning loop is so absolutely critical, where does it all go wrong? Well, understanding the traps is just as important as understanding the process itself. So let's look at 4 classic ways that any big organization can fail at this. The first one, and probably the one we've all seen, is just bureaucratic lag. A really vital lesson from the front line has to travel all the way up the chain of command. But by the time it gets to the top, it's been so polished and sanitized to make sure nobody gets offended that it's completely useless. The organization isn't learning, it's just, as the book puts it, embalming experience into old PowerPoint decks. Not stop, you've got techno-triumphalism. This is this really dangerous belief that just because you have the newest, most expensive technology, you've already solved the adaptation problem. It's basically confusing having the best tools with actually being the best at using those tools to learn and evolve. The third failure is all about culture. It's punished honesty. You know how this works? If the person who points out a mistake gets blamed for it, guess what? People stop reporting mistakes. So those after-action reviews become these empty rituals of blame shifting and self-protection. An organization that can't tell itself the truth is functionally blind. It just cannot get better. And then, finally, you have the total opposite problem. Instead of learning too slowly, the organization reacts to every single piece of data like it's some grand strategic revelation. This isn't disciplined learning, it's just institutional flinching. And it leads to total chaos, not to effective adaptation. So, how do you avoid all these traps? How do you actually build a force that is designed to learn? The answer isn't to just cross your fingers and hope for a few brilliant people. It actually requires a deliberate, disciplined doctrine for adaptation. You see, this isn't about just winging it. It's about intentional design. Commanders have to create these direct channels between the people on the front line and the people making decisions. They have to go out of their way to protect the people who bring bad news. They need the wisdom to tell the difference between a real lesson and just a weird one-off fluke. And maybe most importantly, they have to build an organization that can change without completely falling apart. And this, right here, highlights such a crucial balance. The goal isn't just speed for the sake of speed. It's about a controlled, rapid evolution. You've got to move fast enough to outthink the enemy, but not so fast that you fall into that chaotic, institutional flinching we were just talking about. So this brings us to our final and maybe our most important point. Because even if you have the perfect systems and the perfect doctrine, there is one stubborn, inescapable truth at the heart of all of this. Look, technology and AI can speed up our learning loops in ways that are just incredible. A machine can spot a pattern way faster than any human ever could, but it can't take responsibility for what that pattern means. And that brings us to this critical question you see right here. A machine can tell you what's effective, but can it tell you what is wise? And that really is the bottom line. A human commander has to be the final checkpoint. They're the one who has to decide if a successful tactic was just a fluke, or maybe a trap set by the enemy, or if it crosses a moral or legal line. They have to weigh whether a tactic that works today might destroy trust with an ally tomorrow. Some lessons, even if they seem effective on paper, have to be rejected. So to bring this all home, the central argument of this chapter is this. Winning the modern war of learning isn't about hoarding data or having the fanciest algorithm. It's about which side can take the brutal, honest lessons you get from making contact with reality and turn them into smart, disciplined action over and over and over again, faster than the other guy can. The real question isn't just, can you learn? It's, can you learn with discipline, under fire, and still hold on to your judgment and your humanity?